Welcome back to the deep dive. We are here to process the articles, the dissertations, the foundational texts, all the sources you've shared, and just pull out the most crucial knowledge nuggets. Today, we're taking on a thinker who is, well, he's just impossible to ignore. A man whose ideas were so explosive, they're often credited with sparking the French Revolution.
Jean Jacques Rousseau.
Jean Jacques Rousseau.
And if you want one line that just captures the entire, radical core of his whole political project, it's this one.
I think I know which one you mean.
Man is born free, and he is everywhere in chains.
That quote is the ultimate hook, but it's also the ultimate paradox. I mean, if we're born free, who put the chains on us and why?
Right.
And our mission today isn't just figuring out why we're chained, but looking at Rousseau's really audacious proposal for how we can live freely within those chains.
Exactly. I think that's a common misunderstanding with people think Rousseau wanted anarchy or to go back to the forest.
A return to nature.
Right. He didn't. He knew that once society starts, he can't really go back. So he wasn't trying to abolish authority. He was trying to legitimize it.
So how do you make the chains just?
How do you reconcile that innate natural liberty we all start with the authority of the state? That's the whole game for him.
And that is a serious tightrope walk. But before we get to his political fix, we have to understand his starting point. Because Rousseau was, he was an anomaly in his own time.
A complete outlier.
We place him in the Enlightenment, but he seemed to hate the very core of the Enlightenment.
He really did. He was this defiant, singular voice. While all his contemporaries, Voltaire, Diderot, Locke, they were all about pure, objective reason.
Science, advancement.
And Rousseau was focused on feelings, on sentiment, on emotion. He believed that the modern thinking man had basically rationalized his own humanity away.
And this focus on sentiment, it just sets up his entire critique of progress, which, for an Enlightenment figure, is just so dramatic.
It's a profound pessimism about human advancement.
You think of the 18th century, you think science, arts, intelligence flourishing. Rousseau looks at all that and sees, what? Moral decay.
Total moral decay. He claimed that this pursuit of intelligence and science was actively corrosive to faith and, more importantly, to our innate moral values.
He gave us one of the most shocking lines of the entire era. The thinking animal is a depraved animal.
I know.
How can the intellectual father of a revolution be so fundamentally against intellect?
Because for him, reason suppressed the things that actually matter. The natural feelings, like sympathy and compassion, what he called pity. Instead, when you elevate reason above all else, you cultivate pride. And for Rousseau, pride is inherently evil because it makes us focus only on our own self-interest. It cuts us off from each other.
So reason doesn't make you better, it just makes you clever enough to be selfish.
Precisely. And this wasn't a subtle critique. In 1750, he wins this prize for his discourse on the arts and sciences. And he basically asserts that our souls have been corrupted in proportion to the advancement of our sciences and our arts towards perfection.
That's an intellectual mic drop. So what we call progress, he calls moral regression.
It is, 100%. He said the arts and sciences are just decorations. They just adorn the chains that bind people.
A veneer of civility.
Exactly. A veneer that hides all the jealousy and deceit and vanity bubbling just underneath. He totally rejected the idea that sophistication makes you virtuous.
And he used history to back it up, which makes it so powerful. He points to these great civilizations.
Like Athens.
Athens, yeah. Ruined by luxury. And Rome, which lost all its strength once it became wealthy and self-indulgent, the moment they got sophisticated, they got weak.
The core idea for him is that, reason might refine your thoughts, but only your conscience, only your sentiment can be a true guide for morality.
And that belief in natural goodness leads us right to his state of nature, to the famous noble savage.
The starting point.
This is the human being before the chains. So who was this person?
Well, they were guided by instinct, not by, intellectual debate. They were simple, completely self-sufficient, independent, happy in their simplicity. They felt they survived, but they didn't overthink things.
And there's where he links reason directly to unhappiness. He says something like, a happy individual was not much a thinking being.
Yes. The moment reason kicks in, it creates all these manufactured desires you can never satisfy.
You become more rational, you become more discontent, your wants just multiply.
It was a peaceful state, but a solitary one. And the tragic turning point, the beginning of civil society and all its misery, that happens when the division of labor kicks in.
So things like the discovery of metals, agriculture.
Right. Suddenly people need each other. And with that comes dependence, which for Rousseau is the ultimate source of lost freedom.
Ah, dependency.
Yeah.
And that leads directly to what Rousseau sees as the original sin of political philosophy.
Private property.
Private property.
That's the moment, the critical institutional step. As soon as private property is established, inequality gets locked into the system.
And he has that one devastating sentence that just captures it all.
Oh, it's incredible.
The first man who, after felling off a piece of land, took it upon himself to say, "This belongs to me," and found people simple-minded enough to believe him, was the true founder of civil society.
That's the moment freedom dies, right there.
Because that's when you get what he calls conventional inequality.
Yes, the kind society constructs, mostly through property. And it just completely overtakes natural inequality, the random differences in age or skill.
Once property exists, different talents lead to different fortunes.
And then the wealthy can basically enslave others economically, conflict starts, and the whole system just spirals.
So now the chains are being forged, the rich get scared of losing what they have, so they use their influence to propose laws, government.
And they frame it as being for order, for protection, but really, it's a masterful deception.
It's a scam.
It is. It destroys natural liberty for the majority. It's framed as justice, but it just legitimizes what the powerful already have and subjects everyone else to misery for their benefit.
So we've established the problem. The human condition is one of chains, forged by property, law, and reason itself. He can't tell us to go back to the forest, so he needs a fix.
He needs a fix.
And that brings us to the social contract in 1762, his blueprint for a legitimate social order.
And the central problem he's trying to solve is, how do you create a society where there's authority, but every person, even while united with everyone else, still only obeys themselves?
And remains as free as before.
Exactly. Why should you obey the state without giving up your freedom? That's the question.
And the mechanism he proposes for this contract, it sounds, well, incredibly drastic. It requires the total alienation of each associate, together with all his rights, to the whole community.
It sounds terrifying.
Sounds like a dictatorship.
It does. But the payoff is the key. You're not giving your freedom to a king or to some ruling class. You're dissolving all your individual rights into one giant collective community fund, so to speak.
So you give up your individual claim, but you get an equal stake in the whole thing.
Precisely. Because you surrender your rights to the collective, and you are part of that collective, you get the exact same rights over everyone else as they get over you.
You give yourself to all, so you give yourself to no one in particular.
And that act creates this new moral collective body, the state, the sovereign.
And this is where he sees the real transformation of humanity. He argues this contract replaces instinct with a rule of justice. It lifts us from being a stupid and limited animal into an intelligent, moral being.
It's the difference between just surviving and having true moral freedom. And he saw this not as a one-time thing, but as an ongoing process. Society has to keep participating to keep its moral compass true.
And that compass is the general will.
The general will.
Okay, this is probably his most crucial and most confusing concept. Let's break down what it is and maybe more importantly, what it is not.
It's the foundation for all legitimate law. And it's motivated only by the collective good, the real will. It's always right, and it always aims for the public advantage.
And this is not the same as the will of all.
Absolutely not. The will of all is just adding up everyone's private interests, what every single person wants for themselves.
So if you take a vote on what makes everyone individually richer, that's the will of all.
Exactly. The general will, on the other hand, is what everyone should rationally and morally want for the entire community. It demands that you shed your private, selfish interests when you're making laws.
Okay, so this is the moment, the paradox of paradoxes. If I, a rational person, refuse to obey this pure general will, I can be compelled to do so. I can be forced to be free. How does compulsion equal freedom? I mean, that sounds like pure tyranny.
It's the phrase that's drawn the most fire, for sure. It led scholars like Jacob Tellman to call him a totalitarian Democrat.
I can see why.
But Rousseau has a defense, and it's rooted in that initial contract we all made.
So what's the justification? How can you force someone to be free?
Well, remember that contract. You consented to be part of this moral collective body. So when you follow the general will, you're not obeying some external dictator.
You're obeying the rules you helped create.
You're adhering to the moral commitment you made to yourself and to the community. When you dissent, you're just following your selfish will of all, not your rational, moral self that signed on to the contract.
So if the government forces me to follow the general will, it's really just guiding me back to my own better nature, the higher self I agreed to be when I joined society.
That's the argument. It's forcing you to adhere to your own rational commitments. It's a profound, if controversial, defense.
It completely shifts the dynamic of authority. The ultimate power doesn't reside in a king or a parliament. It's in the people themselves, acting as the sovereign.
Popular sovereignty.
He takes Hobbes' idea of absolute power and Locke's idea of popular government and kind of merges them.
But crucially, he gives that absolute power to the people, collectively. And his stance on this is completely uncompromising. He has that line.
The moment there is a master, there is no longer a sovereign.
Exactly. Sovereignty belongs only to the people. And it's inalienable and indivisible.
Inalienable, meaning you can't give it away. You can't delegate it.
You can't.
And this leads him to just completely reject systems like the English Parliament, which was a big model for representative democracy back then.
He thought it was a total illusion of freedom. He had that famous joke that the English people are only free during elections.
And after that?
After they choose their representatives, their liberty is gone. They've just given away the source of their freedom, their general will, to somebody else.
So the act of delegating your power essentially dissolves it. Yep. He demanded direct democracy.
Yes, modeled on those small Swiss city republics where citizens were directly, actively involved in making the laws they lived under.
For Rousseau, that active participation was everything. It's what ensured self-rule, equality, and virtue. The second you delegate the general will, the state loses its legitimacy.
True liberty is only found when you participate in creating the laws that you yourself obey.
What's so fascinating here is that tension. You start with this defiant individualism of the noble savage.
In the discourse on inequality.
And you end with this equally defiant collectivism of the general will and the social contract. He completely rejected the Enlightenment's idea of the self-interested rational man.
Because he argued that rationality and selfishness are things you learn from a corrupt society. They aren't inherent.
He had to walk that line.
Yeah.
And I think his greatest contribution was trying to synthesize good governance with self-governance.
A system where freedom and obedience are basically the same thing. You're only free when you obey the common good because you helped create it.
And this connects directly back to you, the listener, in our world. Rousseau was intensely focused on equality. He argued that government doesn't just protect liberty, it has to actively promote equality.
Especially economic equality. He believed that without it, real freedom is impossible. The rich will always use their wealth to enslave the poor.
They create dependencies that destroy natural liberty.
They forge new chains.
So we'll leave you with this provocative thought. Rousseau argued that real economic equality was essential for preserving liberty. When you look at modern societies, which often prioritize maximum individual economic freedom, minimal wealth redistribution, how does that align, or maybe spectacularly clash, with Rousseau's fundamental belief that true liberty requires us to avoid dependence on the wealthy?
That quest for the true balance between freedom and equality.
Well, that's a whole other deep dive waiting to happen.
Next time.